Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where I am currently regretting not putting the Voskhod rocket into the space above Gemini. But I mean, technically Gemini started first, which was why I chose to do that. But there's only 2 flights for the Voskhod rocket, which is not a lot. No doubt about that. There's not a lot of flights there, and they had the first multi-man spacecraft and the first spacewalk, and that's the whole thing. So most of this is going to be building the rocket and the 2 iterations of the spacecraft, although that's not going to be a huge deal. There's not a huge amount of difference there. So we're going to start off with the rocket itself here. Here's this nice 3D render here that we can see pretty decently what's going on. This is very similar to the Soyuz rocket, except that the boosters appear to be quite a bit shorter than what we've got going on. It still widens out here, and then it goes up, straight up, and then there's a fairing up over this way, right? So we can see that there's like an interstage here, and that's absolutely fine. We can definitely work with this. So we're going to hop on in to the VAB, and I already have loaded up our previous Vostok rocket. We're going to be modifying it based off of this. Now, we're going to ditch the Delta Deluxe winglets. We're going to ditch actually the entirety of this stage here. This is so weird looking, but that is definitely how it actually worked here. Except that we're going to make some changes. This is, of course, going away. So we're going to get rid of that. And we're going to put in the KV-2P at this point. Now, I don't know what the recovery situation on this was. Did they actually have to bail out here? It lacked a launch escape system. I know that. Re-entry mode. Parachute deployments. Okay, yes. So the Voskhod 3KD used parachutes. The landing mode, yes, the re-entry module for the other also used. Got it. So we've got parachutes. Fantastic. That's good to know. So we can actually recover these for the first time in the Soviet program at this point. Let's put on some drogue chutes, a radial mount parachute. We're probably going to just toss those onto an experiment storage unit like this. So I'll do like a pair of radial mount chutes here. And to be clear, there's not a lot of information on these particular spacecraft. This is a pretty obscure one. Really, I think we'll ditch these radial mount parachutes. And we're going to put this on. I mean, I'm sure the information exists. I just didn't immediately find it, right? So looking at this here, we can see that the P is not at the same size as the Rockamax size. Is the pomegranate, out of curiosity? No, that's that same size. Okay, good to know. So that's absolutely fine. So consulting our reference image of the Voskhod spacecraft here, which I don't know that I showed you this, but this is the reference image that I'm working off of right here. So this is the actual pod, I believe. This is the fuel module over here. This is the engine. Thrust goes this direction. And we've got the Voskhod 1 and the Voskhod 2, which Voskhod 2 was a modification to add space for another person, and it kind of looks like they just bolted that right on there, which is mildly entertaining. And that's Soviet engineering for you, just bolted on. I like it. I mean, it works, right? So, sure. So we're going to be basing this off of that initial design there. So, what I want to do first is this definitely narrows down. Not these sizes. And definitely not that one. Hang on. Minimized the game accidentally. There we go. And what else do we have for adapters? The answer is not much. We've got this guy, but it goes the wrong direction. So we want to get narrower than this, but that's not really a great option. So I think all we're going to do is we're going to toss on like a T200 fuel tank here. And then that's a very, very small engine. So I'm going to actually use a Pug here. Now, the Pug does not have gimbaling. And this does not have a reaction wheel in it. So we're going to need to toss in a reaction wheel here. Something along the lines of that. Cool, that'll do. And then we're going to do a decoupler here. So this is going to be a TD12 decoupler. There we go. And now we're going to start adapting it up to this, right? So that'll be fine. I mean, the awkward part about this is, though, This doesn't really comport with the overall shape of the actual rocket here, because if we look at this, we can see this is a very straight line from the fairing straight on down until we get to where the boosters merge in. Then it narrows down, and then it goes presumably in a straight line here, right? So we can't really match that profile because of the fact... because of the fact that our module up here is not the right size. Now, we could just say, well, we could adapt it with the fairing, if we had a fairing. And that's definitely an option. So this here could connect to a 2.5 meter fairing, like right here. That is definitely something that could happen. And then the 2.5 meter fairing would just go up like this, and it would just sit like this. Now, this looks very strange, right? And I'm going to save this as the Voskhod 1. I want to hop into the VAB, or not the VAB, into the R&D real quick here and see what would we need to get fairings, because we might be able to just go around and gather up data from the KSC again. Like I said, I only stopped at a couple places for the last one. I grabbed data from the launch pad, from like right down here. I grabbed data from the VAB. We went over to the mission control and then to spaceplane hangar and then to the runway is where we grabbed data from previously. So we could theoretically come down to tracking station, R&D, astronaut complex, flagpole, and administration building, right? We have a fair amount of data still here. So I want to check to see what we need for an actual fairing. So that wouldn't be an aviation, I don't believe. Aerodynamics. NCS adapter might be somewhat useful. This is not fairings, though. Advanced aerodynamics. Where would fairings be? Let's just search for fairing. Really? Under advanced construction. Okay, I wouldn't have guessed that. Sure. So we need 90 here. Okay, we're going to do it. So we're going to hop into the VAB. And we're just going to head over and grab ourselves some data here. Now, I want to open up our unsaved spacecraft, or I guess untitled spacecraft. And there is a small problem with this, and that problem is specifically that we are out of range of reaching the Science Junior from the Mark 1 command pod. So I'm going to move a couple of things around here. It's going to be mildly strange for sure. I'm going to flip, not you. I'm going to flip you around. I'm going to put the Octo up here. I'm going to flip you around. We don't... That's some crazy... Oh, no, that's not symmetry at all. Okay, that's just happening kind of strangely. Yeah, something kind of like that, except it's very off on this angling. Okay, something like that. There we go. And then we would put those together like that, put this here, and then we would want to move these to be spaced out a wee bit more. That probably works, and then one of these is going to have to be rotated around. So, like that. So that the wheels are facing the right direction, right? We can invert the wheels if necessary. That's fine. I don't really like the positioning of this. I wish it was further forward, but this would do. So now we're going to be able to reset our Science Junior, so that'll be convenient. And we definitely want to have Bob in here. So we're going to put Bob Kerman on in, and we're going to launch this. So I'll show you the process here. It's not much of a process, to be honest. We'll have to see what we have as far as steering. Steering might be inverted right now with those changes. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work. I did have to invert steering previously, though. So in theory, this should be fine. Checking our steering here. That's mildly awkward. Okay, so we'll need to invert the steering on only this side, it looks like. Yes. Okay, so that's fine. We can throttle up our engine here and get ourselves a little bit of speed going. Can we turn? Apparently, we're not actually getting any turning going. Okay, let's turn off the steering in the back here. This was definitely working better previously. Oh, this one needs to be inverted. Brakes on, please. Okay, so this one needs to be inverted. There we go. That's a wee bit better. So we're just going to bring this on around, and hopefully we've not gone too far here, but I think our geometry is okay here. Oh, that was close. Okay, but we made it. Cool. So we're just going to head on over here, and this is fine. We don't need any additional speed, and we're just going to roll ourselves on down here, and this is why we don't need any additional speed. There we go. And we'll need to bump on over this. Yeah, that seems okay. Cool. And this thing works pretty well, really. Oh, we didn't actually get the crawler way previously. Fascinating. Okay. I know I was struggling with it previously, so that's probably why. We probably got all the way down here. Yeah, we didn't get the crawler way before, but we did get these up over this way, which is kind of an awkward place to be, but whatever. We'll grab our material study. That's fine. Let's have Bob EVA for now. Grab a surface sample. He's going to need to grab the EVA report. X-Science gets a little confused about these little sub-biomes that are here, but that's fine for now. And this thing's very, very fuel efficient. No doubt about that, but this is definitely an improvement on the design. Okay, so we're going to brake here. Whoa, okay. Those brakes are a little bit much. No doubt about that. So, what do we want to do about this? I mean, we could recover it. That's definitely an option. What do we want to do about this situation? I hadn't anticipated this. Our reaction wheel does not appear to be enough, I think, to flip us back up. Correct. I don't want first-person view. Okay, we could definitely recover this. This is fine. Let's have Bob EVA, and we're going to grab our surface sample. We're going to climb down a bit here. We're going to open this on up. We're going to collect our data from our Science Junior and restore that. We're going to collect our data and restore. We're going to conduct the materials study. We're going to observe the mystery goo. So we'll grab both of those bits of science. We'll hop in here. Actually, we need to collect what data we can up here. Now hop in. Now EVA back out. Okay, so this is definitely a minor design flaw. No doubt about that. So the brakes are a little bit much. Noted. We'll just conduct all that studying there. Perfect. And we'll hop in and we'll recover the vessel. So that's something that we can definitely address. It's not the end of the world. No doubt about that one. But how much science did we get? We only need 90, right? So we should have gotten some from that anyway. I don't know that we got 90 out of it. 34.5, so we're at 63. Okay, so we're going to launch ourselves another untitled spacecraft, which is going to be this guy. And the only thing that we're going to do differently this time is we are going to, A, turn off the steering in the back again and invert the one steering, or actually it doesn't need it, does it? It shouldn't need it. We shouldn't have to do any steering inversion. We turn off the steering in the back and we turn down our braking strength. Okay, so we're going to turn our brakes down to 15% across the board. That should be substantially weaker. That's less than half the amount of breakage. There we go. And we're going to disable the steering in the back. This one does still need to be inverted. Okay. There we go. Wait. It doesn't need to be inverted. It fooled me. Okay, but that's okay. We are fine here. So off we go. We don't have jet engines to power this. Jet engines would definitely be far more efficient than this, but this is completely fine. I'm not concerned about it. We're very stable, surprisingly, other than that small braking issue. And at this point, we're just going to head on down and get ourselves a little bit more data here. So that'll be okay. So here we are at the crawler way. We can get another surface sample, and let me just straighten out here. Oh, we have Jeb right now. Okay. So we're not going to have resets. That's fine. So we're going to grab that surface sample, and we'll collect our data. Let me pin this open. That'll be convenient. Okay. Getting us a little bit more speed. We want to head out over this way. I haven't been there before. So that'll be absolutely fine. I think we'll get enough from going here and maybe grabbing some additional data from here. But that said, we can only grab non-repeatable data the once, right? Okay, so here we are at the Kerbal VAB. We're going to head this direction. We're going to EVA, and we're going to grab a surface sample from here. There we go. And now we're going to hop up over this direction. And there's the KSC. Perfect. We can turn our brakes on. Hopefully this doesn't tip us this time, and it doesn't. We can temperature scan, atmospheric pressure scan. We'll grab our mystery goo observation and our material study. There we go. And then Jeb will be able to EVA. Grab that EVA report. And a surface sample. We'll hop in. We're going to collect what data we can. We'll EVA again. And we'll grab a second surface sample and store that in here. Okay. Hopefully that's enough. We'll recover that. Fingers crossed. I would love to get a fairing on this thing. That would be great. We'll need 90 science in total for that. If this isn't enough, maybe we'll just sell a little bit, or rather buy a little bit of science. That is something we can do. We have a fair amount of money right now, so that would be okay. So let's get this loaded on up. 34.5, 98 science. Beautiful. Okay, so we definitely grab advanced construction to get access to fairings. And now we can hop back into the VAB and get to work on our vehicle. So that's great. So we are going to open the Voskhod 1. There we go. And of course, this is going to require a fairing here. Now that we're done with that. So 0.625, this is going to be a, what, 2.5 meter fairing? This is going to be mildly awkward. We don't actually have the 2.5 meter fairing, so it's going to have to be something kind of like this to approximate it. But I guess that's okay. Yeah, I guess it's fine. Just looking at the different fairing colors here. Okay. Looks reasonable. So at this point, I think that we need to drop a little bit of fuel down over here. So these struts come off, as do the fuel tanks. A little bit of fuel down here gets dropped because this rocket is taller up top, actually. So what we need here is this gets moved down, and then we have a bit of an interstage up here. So I'm going to drop, actually, no, I'm going to keep the 32. I think a 64 would be too much, so I'm going to put a 16 in here, and we're going to make that white. And then we're going to toss on a poodle. And then we're going to put on a TD25 decoupler, like so. Then we're going to put on, just looking at what we've got here, looks like about a 32 in terms of ratio. So something along the lines of this, and then this, and then actually these T200s, I think we're going to make this into like a pair of T800s. We'll have to see how that actually feels with our fuel tanks here, right? So these guys here are going to have to be attached on here and then moved down into position. That's about right, actually. So it'll end up being something kind of like this. I have no idea if that's going to explode on liftoff, but I want to, if we can get away with it, use Kodiaks on these. They're a little on the small side, aren't they? I mean, we could go for something like that. What's that thruster weight just on its own? 0.98. And obviously we need to get rid of the solid fuel in here. So it would be something kind of like this, but I feel like this is going too small and a little too quickly. So what we really need to do is, oh, I didn't want to grab those. I wanted to move those. We need to move these, and actually we do need to grab them, but we need to grab not these. We need to grab their radial decouplers and move those to be about up here. And have these be moved slightly down. to be about there. And then we toss on a little bit of extra fuel down here. This is about a T800 in size. Okay, noted. I want to see... Yeah, it's mildly awkward in terms of the shaping, but it should be reasonably fine. So something kind of like those are a little too big. Yeah, this size, but I want like 2 of these. Yeah, about like that. That'll do. So then we can have these guys here. We can move this ever so slightly down to make that be a little bit more even. There we go. And then we can put on something relatively powerful in the center here. A mainsail would be pretty funny. That's obviously way too big. We would need to go with a compact engine. That's hilarious looking. That would definitely lift it. I think the mainsail is overkill, though. So we're going to go with maybe something like a skipper here in the center. So that would be compact, like that. Yeah, that's not bad. I'm going to move these ever so slightly further down. Okay, and then I'd like to clip them in a little bit. That'll have to do for now. Okay, so we've got struts, and those are going to connect in here and also up here. And then I'd like to have fuel flow from the outside in. So it's going to go something kind of like this. This fairing would be a 2.5 meter fairing if we had that unlocked, but we don't, so we're emulating it as best we can here. So it will end up being something kind of like this, right? That's going to be approximately what we're going for. We do need some tail fins down at the end, though. That's definitely something that did exist, so we're going to toss, these are way too big, but we'll do something about like that for our Voskhod rocket. Okay, so that is absolutely great at this point. I would say we're going to run a simulated flight to see how this decoupling goes, but we kind of don't have... I mean, this is Soviet engineering, right? We're not going to do that. We're just going to put this thing out on the pad and be like, I wonder what's going to happen. So that's all 4 of these Kodiaks, all of these engines. That's only 1.08. Okay, so we're going to have to ditch the Kodiaks and go with a cluster of smaller engines. That's a little sad. I was hoping to use the Kodiaks, but we can go with something like T-30s. Okay, let me get zoomed in a bit on this. So we would, of course, have these be compact. And we would put in one here. Can we just use engine plates for this? Probably better. Do we have good engine plate sizes? Yeah, we do. Beautiful. So we're going to put in quad. And now we have attachment points for them. Beautiful. That makes things a lot easier. So we would do something like this. That would definitely work. So these guys would, of course, have to be moved down here. That's a lot of engines, right? No doubt about that. This engine would get moved here as well. So that's 2.42. And these guys we can move down, but they're not actually going to fire because we have them disabled. Just double checking our staging here. We're going to need these guys to be here. These engine plates don't actually matter whether they fire or not. These can be combined together. Our fairing would be ditched a ways up in the atmosphere, probably about the same time as this decoupler, actually. Well, we'd manually stage it most likely. And then this would be moved up like so. We would then split off our main chute, and it would end up looking something like this, staging-wise. We've got good thrust to weight of 2.42, so I'm actually thinking about throttling down all of these engines to like 65%. What would that end up looking like? I'm assuming that's all of them. So 65% here. 1.7? Yeah, that's way better. Cool. Okay, so let's get our first Voskhod flight done, as it's about time for the episode to end. But luckily, all we have to do is achieve orbit with this thing and come home. So that should be relatively quick here, in theory. And then the second Voskhod flight is going to be a thing as well. We're just going to make a very small modification to it, and then it's going to be go do a spacewalk pretty much, right? So nothing too major there. Let's get this loaded up. Hopefully we don't have any major issues with it, because off we go. That feels peppy off the pad compared to what we've been flying in Gemini. No doubt about that. And that's still only 1.7. This is heavily thrust limited, remember. Yeah, fuel is flowing from outside in. So the question is, how long before we stage off our boosters here? I think that we probably should consider not doing a gravity turn before our boosters are detached, just for safety purposes and for altitude purposes. So we basically go up until we burn this out, detach the sides, and go immediately to the horizon would be the idea. That's about another 20 seconds of straight up burn. It feels okay-ish. Yeah, it feels okay-ish. Our apoapsis height is going to be relatively high, but to be clear, in reality, this rocket was actually overpowered for the payload that they had on it. So it just naturally got... Ooh, that's actually not a bad detach. I like it. Our thrust to weight is negative here. That's pretty exciting. Hopefully that goes positive pretty soon here. But to be clear, they definitely did have an overpowered rocket for their payload in reality. So that's okay. We'll just park ourselves here and we'll see how this goes. We might need to get more altitude. Our thrust to weight is 1.0 right now. So this stage probably needs some revising on this skipper. We might end up upgrading that to a mainsail. We'll see. That's a distinct possibility. For now, though, we're keeping an eye on that time to apoapsis. I'm sitting here thinking we probably want to be parked at prograde right now, not the horizon. Yeah, this is substantially better. So our orbital speed is increasing. I think that we do need to upgrade this engine from a skipper. I think that's very, very clear. But we are up to 1.14 thrust to weight ratio now. So that is definitely improving. We see our time to apoapsis is still dropping, but it's not dropping at 1 second per second. That's a good sign. We could also ditch our fairing to lose some weight here, and I'm definitely going to do that. So that puts us at an additional like 0.05 thrust to weight ratio. That's good. However, I'm going to go back up to 45 degrees here. We need additional altitude at this moment. We can see now time to apoapsis is going up. So it's very, very clear that this skipper is a little bit underpowered. There's no doubt about that. So we're just going to park here for a little bit until our apoapsis height is about 70 again. Until our apoapsis height is about 70. And now I'm going to head over and work on getting us purely horizontal speed. That buys us some additional time here. And if we need to push that apoapsis up higher, we can. It's definitely an interesting ascent profile with this thing being substantially underpowered. So we're going to have to update that from a skipper to a mainsail. That's not a big deal. That's just a drop-in replacement. So I'm not too concerned about that one. Time to apoapsis is going up right now, but we are about to stage here. And there we go. Time to apoapsis is going down again, but it's going to start going up very soon here, it looks like. Yeah, right around now, actually, we're transitioning. Yep, there we go. So this does seem viable. But that engine does have to go. No doubt about that. That is absolutely for sure. And we've got a lot of Delta V in this, right? That's for sure as well. We might want to consider downgrading those 30s to like 15s. That's something we can consider doing next episode. But for now, all we have to do is achieve orbit, and that's certainly something we're looking to do here. So we're at about orbital velocity. We'll just target 80 kilometers here. That seems absolutely fine. And we'll circularize around here. So this is doable. It's a little bit janky, and we can certainly clean that up. But this is definitely a viable rocket design. So that's good. Let's warp on forward here. About 30 seconds to go. And now we've got about 1 minute to go. 50 seconds. 40. 30. 20. 10. And let's get into orbit. And then we're just going to immediately come home. Just want to prove the orbital capacity of this rocket for right now. So that's in orbit right there. Looks good. Now we're going to come home. And they did actually use parachutes. Generally speaking, the Soviets went for land landings as opposed to sea landings. So that is certainly something that we can angle for. But for now, let's just slow this on down. I'm realizing the only heat shield we included was the P re-entry module. And we never actually included a decoupler here either. That could be a minor problem. Well, let's just decelerate here. It's probably okay. We'll bring this down to about 10 kilometers. That'll do. And let's ditch this. We'll use the engine here as a bit of a heat shield, and if we need to slow down with it, we will. But I think it'll be fine. So over we go. We're going to park ourselves retrograde, and keep in mind, we do have ablation built in to our P re-entry module. So we can rely somewhat on that. I'm not sure how much drag that will really add, though. That's the real question here. So in we come. We could certainly look at doing a land landing here, or just burning our engine right here and burning off what we can, and slowing down that way. That is definitely an option, but I'd like to re-evaluate this area up here a bit as well. So we've got a couple of things that we'd like to change on this rocket before we do the second and final launch of it. But this is certainly a successful launch. Now the question is, will it be a successful landing? Well, we'll find out. We're beginning to decelerate now. I'm going to turn on our engine here. It's actually not activated, is it? There we go. I'm going to activate our engine here. I want to be losing speed a little bit more quickly than we were. So I'll just do a bit of a powered landing here, kind of. And bring this right on in. It definitely doesn't like to move away from retrograde, unlike the other, which is nice. Okay, under a kilometer per second. And we're going to get our drogue chutes now. Ish. You guys armed? No, they didn't actually go. Oh, it's because of this, right. That will do it. There we go. And then the main chute will, of course, be after that. So if we need to ditch everything else here, we can. But we probably don't need to. So we'll get that chute out, and we'll see whether we can salvage this stuff or not. But that definitely needs to be thought through a little bit better. So a couple of minor issues with this rocket, but it's certainly orbit worthy. There's no problem there, really. I think getting, ideally, more efficient engines on the booster and upgrading to a mainsail will probably be a way to go. So we can look into that next episode. This is going a little bit over at this point, and so I'm going to mark Voskhod 1 off on our... I always want to say Voskhod. It's not. It's Voskhod. I don't know why I always want to switch those around. Okay. Yeah, we had a slight boom there with our engine. That's probably because we came in with physics warp. It's fine. We're going to recover this vessel. I'm marking it off on our list. That is absolutely fine. Did I spell it wrong on the thumbnail too? Yes, I did. Okay, let me correct that. There we go. Voskhod. Perfect. So that'll be fine. We, of course, need to get our 200,000 payment for Voskhod 1. And then we'll make a couple of alterations and we'll send up Voskhod 2, which is, again, a fairly minor thing. And then we're actually done with this program already. It was very, very brief before it was replaced by the Soyuz program. It was just Soviet leadership changed and that'll do it, you know? So that's fine. We're going to hop on over to, not contracts, over to our cheats, and we're going to add in 200,000 because that's how we get paid, and that is all good. So we're ready to do our next mission now. And a very special thank you. No, this is not the segue. We're ready to do the next mission now, and it is past time to put a cut in here. There we go. So next episode, we're going to do exactly that. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Andy McGar, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12UK, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.